Kansas City Chiefs defeat the San Francisco 49ers. It's 28-18. Chiefs move to 6-0. Niners fall to 3-4. Kansas City, the last remaining undefeated team in the NFL. Ugly game offensively for both teams for quite a bit of this game.
What an absolutely insane game. I mean, just the way it started, right? Like 4th and 1, fake punt to get stuffed again, like the Vikings game.
Purdy, the Chiefs,
Purdy interception. Kalia Davis then tips and then intercepts the ball to himself. Just a crazy start, back and forth with neither team like taking advantage of having the ball.
The QB passing stat lines are hilarious, actually. Mahomes 16 of 27 for 154, no touchdowns, 2 picks, passer rating of 44.4. Brock Purdy's was even worse, 17 of 31 for 212, no touchdowns, 3 picks, 36.7 passer rating. I know Purdy also had 2 touchdowns on the ground. Mahomes had a touchdown on the ground, and probably the play of the game, the 33-yarder along the sideline, which was huge. So a lot of the advanced metrics will save Mahomes on those ones because those rushing yards are valuable. Did it to set up the touchdown that essentially sealed the deal for Kansas City.
Mahomes on the season now has a stat line that looks like Deshaun Watson. He's got 6 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. Like,
passer rating of like 81 or something like that. I mean, it's an awful stat line.
It's terrible.
I just want, like, people, you can't start, like, I'm not going to talk MVPs here, but it's pretty bad. So he's 39-year-old Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
This
so
is a good one.
There you go.
Read it.
No, you read it because I can't remember how.
Patrick Mahomes and Peyton Manning in 2015.
Remember, that's broken Peyton Manning at the end of his career in the last season where he couldn't really play anymore.
Only QBs in the last 30 years to throw more interceptions and touchdowns while leading their teams to a 6-0 start. 39-year-old Manning had 7 passing touchdowns and 10 interceptions. I think 4 came against the Chiefs there. And his 6-0 start in 2015, those came later, actually.
Yeah.
A season that ended in a Super Bowl 50 victory. I mean, the last couple of years, this has kind of been true, but the Chiefs are a defense-first team.
Yes.
A pounds-the-rock type of team. Mahomes did play better in the playoffs, but this offense was this inconsistent last year as well. Last year was a little bit more, I think, his receivers letting him down. This year, it's just they're not great offensively. There was 2 big swings for both teams in this game. Brock Purdy, probably his best throw of the game was to Brandon Ayuk on a 3rd down. They couldn't get anything going. Ayuk dropped it. Eventually gets his ACL blown out, most likely, later in the game.
And so that was on 3rd down.
And then next play.
The very next play was a big punt return to get Kansas City to the 49ers 30-yard line.
So that was one of those swings in a game that was massive in Kansas City's favor. And then it worked the other way for Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes has Xavier Worthy for the whole, like, we're going to take our play action shot. You max protect.
From the slot, deep route from the slot. Can't cover it.
He's wide open. This should have been a 75-yard touchdown or wherever he was from.
And he can't overthrow a 4.2 140.
But he did.
Turns out you can.
So Mahomes overthrows Worthy for what should have been a 75-yard touchdown. 2 plays later, Xavier Worthy falls down on the route, and there's an interception. That would be the play. Like the first series of plays, you would say if the Chiefs win, Ayuk drop, Hardman punt return, which set up a Kansas City score and was huge. And if the Niners were to pull this off, it would have been looking back at Mahomes misses this touchdown that's wide open, and then the Niners come back with the interception a couple plays later.
I wonder, like, was Mahomes sort of inwardly cursing his own arm strength on that play? Because that was one you rarely see Mahomes like genuinely. You genuinely don't see him put everything into the throw the way Ryan Fitzpatrick did on every single pass attempt, right? Like every throw Ryan Fitzpatrick ever attempted looked like he was trying to throw the ball through a building, right? Like through the concrete. Mahomes rarely does that. But this was one where he was like, 4-2-1 is free behind the defense. I've got to unload it. And like launched everything he had into it and airmailed it, like put it 3-4 yards beyond him. Was like, curse my howitzer of an arm.
It shows the fine line, though, because that was the one he hit in stride against the Chargers a few weeks ago. Remember, their offense was just as bad against the Chargers back in week 3 or 4, whatever that was, but he hit the one, right? He hit this one in that game. This game, the offense was just as inconsistent, and he missed it. And look, it didn't matter because the Chiefs ended up pulling away in the end because their defense just absolutely cracked down on Purdy and the Niners.
Yeah, the other massive, not sequence of plays, but two other massive individual plays. One you've already mentioned, Mahomes with that ridiculous run down the sideline where a linebacker just completely overruns it, lets him cut back and scamper for additional yardage down the sideline. That was an absolutely ridiculous play. I initially thought that he'd pulled like the Kenny Pickett thing, the fake slide, and no, I'm going to keep going. I honestly think 53 just played it absolutely horrendously. D. Winters.
Yeah.
Like, I think he just had an inexcusable defensive play. Like, Fred Warner kind of gets not stiff arm, but just sort of can't make the tackle. Mahomes beats him, but he then just like slowly cuts upfield and Winters just runs off the field.
Part of this, though, is defenders are so cautious now along the sideline.
But you could be cautious and just shepherd him off the field. Like, just line inside.
Yeah, he did over-pursue pretty badly.
Show him off the field and be cautious.
Pretty
Don't hit
impressive
him.
start-stop ability from Mahomes. He hasn't looked that athletic relative to his previous years this year, but that was a good one. His scrambling has been outstanding again, though.
And then there was a couple of plays later where they failed on the third down, and he just decided to truck Malik Mustafa at the goal line, going in for the touchdown. But he was
already in the end zone anyway.
Whatever. He trucked the dude.
Mustafa has some monster hits, too.
Yeah, and he got absolutely flattened by Mahomes in that play. And then the other massive high-leverage play was the 49ers actually had a drive going down in the red zone, and George Karlaftis wins, gets a hit on Purdy as he's throwing the ball.
Yeah.
Hit as he threw, interception, and that's a turnover in a critical situation for them.
Now, the Niners, we knew they were already down Christian McCaffrey. Deebo Samuel was sick.
Yep.
Tried to play. How many snaps did he end up with? A couple? Like, Deebo Samuel ends up just left. He was so he was sick. Ayuk gets knocked out with the ACL. I mean, and Jawan Jennings was already not playing.
Right.
So they were down to rookie Jacob Cowing. Ricky Pearsall makes his NFL debut. Remember, he was just shot the weekend of opening. Was it opening weekend? Or just before that? Just a few months ago or 2 months ago. So it was good to see Pearsall out there.
Yep.
But it was George Kittle and then like Ronnie Bell and just all the Chris Conley. They're throwing jump balls to Chris Conley. Like, when you're in that part of the playbook, it is rough for the Niners' depth.
Yeah, because Ayuk gets a knee
after
injury.
Ayuk got hurt. Yes,
right. Which I don't think we mentioned that.
I just did 3 times.
Oh, nice.
I mentioned it, but I didn't get into if you want to talk about the play specifically, I just touched on, hey, Brandon Ayuk probably tore his ACL here.
Yes. So that's what they were saying. The initial sort of Twitter doctor people were like, yeah, it's L or MCL or LCL, whichever, one of those ones, and some other potential things. And the 49ers, Shanahan, I think after the game invoked, we think it might be an ACL, but he'll have tests. Generally, I think if a coach is saying we think it's probably an ACL, it's probably an ACL. I mean, that's the kind of thing that you test with, movement of the knee, and it's moving in a way that it doesn't move if your ACL is intact. We'll get it confirmed by the scan the next morning. He's probably done for the year. So all of a sudden, they need Ricky Pearsall to actually have a huge role in that offense in a way. So he led the team yesterday in receiving snaps, but it only resulted in 5 targets, 3 catches, 21 yards, and 1 first down. They now need him to take up a huge amount of slack, or guys to get back healthy quickly, like Deebo not to be sick, Jennings to be back, that kind of thing.
Dan Pasuta of the 33rd team here had an observation that I agreed with. He said yesterday at the beginning of the game, 49ers have used play action less this year, but it feels like every time they've tried to go back to it this game, the Chiefs have blown it up in some way. I mean, early on, the Niners were looking at shot play after shot play after shot play, and it just wasn't there. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic. It does feel like they've put a little bit more on Purdy's plate this year. It is less deception and play action. They still have their good passing concepts, but Purdy's throwing the ball down the field more than ever. Now he's got fewer dudes to throw to down the field with Ayuk out. It's going to be an interesting dynamic. I also mentioned this last night on the show. Purdy had 4 interceptions against the Ravens on Christmas night, and I thought some of those were fluky. I thought he played better in that game where, again, everybody makes the declarative statement, see, Purdy's overrated, he's a system guy, blah, 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 blah. And it was like, well, the Ravens tipped 3 passes. And they all landed in their hands.
Yeah.
This was, after we'd been talking up Purdy for a while, this was one of Purdy's worst games.
Yeah.
Now, the context there is you're missing like your top 4 receivers.
Right.
Like that has to be factored in here, right? We give those passes when we said this about Mahomes all last year and everything, right? So you give that pass. At the same time, you're about to be a $60 million quarterback in a year. You need to show that you can overcome those things. On top of all that, you talk about the Shanahan scheme and who's got answers and everything. The Spags have answers here because, man, that dude is cooking these last couple of years.
That's what I was going to ask. Is it time we start to give Spags the kind of credit that we've been giving Flores in terms of having answers to the Shanahan defense?
I think Spags has answers to everybody. I mean, every single week.
He's now 4-0 against Shanahan.
No, I get it. Yeah. No, I think Spags is – look, I think we've got this vision in our head. Flores didn't invent putting like 7 up on the line of scrimmage and creating havoc. He's just probably doing it more than others. But Hafley just did it with the Packers. The Chiefs do it quite a bit. And we mentioned on the preview show here, the Chiefs' secret sauce defensively is saying you're not going to hit the easy stuff. You're going to have to hit these low percentage passes down the field, which Purdy's best throw, as I mentioned, was downfield on the hands of Brandon Ayuk, and he dropped it. If you don't hit those, if you don't connect on those, you're screwed because there's not going to be a whole lot of easy. It's going to be a whole lot of low percentage stuff. And Spags does that against every offense extremely well. And he just has that way of dialing up the key pressure at the right time, seemingly every week, in key situations. So I think he's been doing a great job. This Chiefs defense, outstanding once again, cracking down, making huge plays.
4-0 against Kyle Shanahan, 2-0 against McDaniel last year in the Dolphins. Didn't play Houston last year, so we didn't get to see him against Bobby Slowick, but last 6 games against the Shanahan offense, he's won every one of them. Now, part of that is he's on the Chiefs and they have Patrick Mahomes and they win most games they play in. But those are 2 good teams that they've got an unblemished record against in the last 6 games.
Yeah, it's just, once again, it does feel like teams just continue to make key mistakes, that you can't make if you're going to upset the team. I know the Niners were favored, but to me it's all an upset anytime you beat the Chiefs right now. On one hand, Mahomes has by far the worst stats of his career, and can that get better? On the other hand, like they're 6-0 despite that. I mean, it depends on how you're looking at this, but Chiefs offense still has room to get way better at this point. And they're still sitting here at 6-0, and they've already handled a lot of the tougher teams on the schedule.
Yeah.
So 6-0, they're going to go undefeated. Undefeated talk. Time to start it. Chiefs got the Raiders next week. They'll be 7-0. Anything else on this one?
No. The Chiefs are obviously in a great situation. The 49ers are now under 500, 3-4. Like,
a game back of Seattle.
Yeah,
4-3.
They're not in trouble, but they almost feel like the team that everyone's going to start to forget about because they, instead of being the unstoppable NFC juggernaut and, top seed, et cetera,
exploding whale?
No, not even that. They're going to stumble their way into the playoffs with this backdoor, under 500 for a lot of the season. And everyone's sort of going to sleep on them. And then actually you're going to remember at some point, this is a team capable of beating any team in the league.
It's one of my favorite parts of the season. We get right around Thanksgiving into December, and every week, it's usually Rich Eisen declares, this is the team you don't want to see in January. Rich Eisen's really good at making a weekly declaration of this is the team you don't want to see. Like last year it was Cincinnati, then it was Buffalo, then it was the Packers. It's just every week there's a new team. The Niners are going to be the team that at some point we're going to say you don't want to see them in January.
Like whoever you are hosting a divisional game, in the playoffs after the wild card week, you do not want San Francisco to be the team that's coming to your building, I would suspect, regardless of how they get there, regardless of what it looks like. This team will be dangerous if and when they make the playoffs, even with the way they've struggled. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.